if you ask me the current hiring sentiments in India, it's actually pretty good. I think we are seeing a pretty positive vibe from an overall hiring perspective. There was a little bit of dip around July and August, but what we are witnessing as of today is a lot of companies have kind of come back and they have again started a lot of projects and they are kind of hiring. So uh, the other thing that we see is attrition is on the higher side, so that's a good sign. So that basically means that demand is a lot higher than the supply. And of course, I mean, on various platforms that we have on the job boards, on an average, almost about 3.5 lakh to 4 lakh job openings are there on across all platforms. Uh, so that's again pretty much the story in terms of how the overall sentiment is like from a job market standpoint. Overall, from an industry standpoint, I think if you look at some of the major industries which are really adding that value and taking our GDP, the first and foremost which comes is the technology. So the technology contributes almost close to about 9.5% of the GDP of the entire country. That's a big contribution in terms of the end product of goods and services. And of course, the digital comes hand in hand. So 40% of the overall digital transactions which happens across the world happens from India. So that's a big number. And in to add to that, there are other industries which are again playing a major role. Industries such as the banking and financial services, the FMCG, which is the consumer goods domain, and of course the healthcare, telecom, and the pharma areas. So primarily, these are some of the industries which have shown a quarter-on-quarter growth. I mean, compared to what it was in 2021. So if you look at the areas predominantly which have contributed, especially in technology front, data science and analytics are the ones which have really grown. And Bangalore, where I'm based out of, right? Bangalore has been a big contributor in terms of the analytics jobs. Like more than 50,000 job openings are there anytime in this particular domain, which is almost close to about 30% of the total analytics job openings, right? Overall. All these industries that I mentioned, these industries are going to really take us far in terms of where we are in the next 2, 3 years. And some of the other industries, what we have been seeing, which has a lot of potential, because there have been a lot of foreign direct investments, industries such as the automotive or the manufacturing or the engineering and the travel and tourism. So these are some of the industries where uh, we have been seeing that the government has been kind of taking a lot of initiatives and policies are being laid out in place to make sure that we attract a lot of investments from outside. So yeah, these are some of the industries which do showcase a lot of potential to grow in the next 2 to 3 years time. So the biggest opportunity for an employer in today's market is, I think, the organizations which have the best talent. I think those are the organizations which are really going to go far, right? Compared to the other set of organizations who are really struggling to get the right talent. Because, as I said, on one hand, there's a lot of attrition. On the other hand, there's a lot of unemployability as well, because there's a big shortage of good talent out there in the market. So, in terms of the employer opportunity, the employers in today's world knows that uh, if they have the right talent for the right areas or the projects, they're much ahead of their peers or competitors in that particular segment. And we also do have to note another point is that we have been seeing a lot of hiring which is happening based on skills rather than roles. For example, there was a time when there used to be a lot of role-based hiring. For example, a candidate might have completed a certain degree and have done a similar kind of work in a certain industry, would be hired based on the role that he or she might have played in the earlier organizations. But today, the employers have become cognizant of the fact that the demands have changed of their end customers, and therefore they basically hire people, right based on skills, right, directly. So if somebody's hiring a Python or a Java or a .NET, as long as the candidate qualifies for that particular skill, he or she can be hired. And yeah, that's about it. And in terms of the threats, in terms of threats, if you look at the overall industry, uh, we have kind of witnessed this that there's a big drop which we have seen in terms of the offer acceptance rates. So if you talk about skills like data engineers or a front end or a back end developer or a full stack or a DevOps, uh, the offer acceptance rates have really come down to almost about 50% compared to possibly about 80-90% pre-COVID times. So in today's times, for every 100 offers which are there, uh, only about 35 to 40 people actually turn up at the new organization. So again, there's a reason to it, is that one of the major reasons is of this high dropout is due to fungibility of these high tech skills. So there are always people available for the same skill set somewhere. And we have seen people are working from anywhere. So location has never been a challenge in the past 2.5 years now. So I believe those are some of the threats which we are seeing in the current market conditions. So from an employee standpoint, I believe that the skill sets which I just mentioned, like data engineers or a front end or a back end developer, or anybody who is working with DevOps kind of area, people who are really good, they'll always be in demand. So that's a big opportunity for the employees to kind of come in and do their part, right? Uh, in the current market conditions, as I said, demand is way higher than the supply. So this will always give a candidate an upper hand, right, in terms of job interviews or any sort of offer negotiations. Uh, we have also seen this for a fact that uh, a lot of tier two cities in India have grown much faster than tier one, because, as I mentioned earlier, location has never been a challenge. So since the time people have gone back to their homes and started working on all these areas, uh, a lot of people have shifted to their native, and that's how the entire demography has changed, right? The quality of life and the local presence, the industries, everything else has changed. So that kind of brings me back to the point, is that a lot of tier two and tier three cities have grown because of this. A lot of economical activities have increased, which was not the case about 3 years back. So that's a big opportunity for the employee. And in terms of threats, I would say that since the demand is so high, uh, an employer beyond a certain point of time, right, cannot wait. And I feel that uh, they are offering pretty high packages to employees, right, beyond a certain timeline, right? So that encourages a lot of mediocrity amongst the employees. So if you take a Java skill, and if you have a timeline, for example, a couple of months to close that particular skill, you could wait for another month, but you cannot wait for like 5 or 6 months. That starts affecting the business overall. So a lot of mediocrity could set in, and that is being happening all around. uh, Employees are being hired at kind of expensive packages. And my only concern is, at a later point in time when the market stabilizes or possibly goes back to normal, these expensive employees or resources, uh, they could face the heat, in the coming months or years. So if we look at the current market conditions again, we have been hearing a lot of news about organizations announcing the layoffs, or a lot of severance packages being announced, a lot of right sizing and downsizing news there are. But I think that we need to be overall a little, cautiously optimistic about the future, especially in the next 1 or 2 years. Why? Because India as a destination has been always like a favorite destination for most of the businesses. We have been seeing a lot of uh, global delivery centers being set up out here in India. So that speaks for itself that the talent out here will never go unrecognized, right? Uh, there was a lot of gung-ho about the overall startup culture, right, which started since 2017, 2018. Uh, I do know that in a lot of startups, things are not going the way that people had expected to be kind of going. But yeah, I think this is a temporary or and a passing phase. Yeah, yes, there have been layoffs, but I don't think that we should be kind of concerned in a big way in terms of how the future will look like. As I said, we need to be a little cautious in terms of the overall hiring numbers and things like that. Uh, a lot of companies have again started to announce that they want to hire people in various teams and projects. So we'll have to wait and watch in terms of how the next 3 to 4 quarters look like.